In our first sessions, we talked about the cycle of business, starting with the owner. Now, what we've done is we've set up your thinking, but obviously the thinking from you drives down through your business. So hopefully those principles that we talked about should also be influencing your team's thinking now. So as a quick recap, above and below the line, and that cycle of performance or non-performance, the ability to create change by establishing both dissatisfaction and vision and lowering resistance, the ability to create behavioural and therefore result shifts by looking at beliefs and proactively changing our beliefs to cause the behaviour to get the new results we want. And then the final piece really about wrapping some objectivity around the business in terms of dashboards and KPIs so that people can make higher quality, faster decisions. So now we've started to create a new way of thinking, we can move around the cycle of business to the team level. And I think it's really important to understand the game we're playing. Stephen Covey, in his 8th Habit book, talks about there being 4 parts to a person. So we've got body, which is their physical intelligence, mind, which is their intellectual intelligence, heart, which is their emotional intelligence or passion, and spirit, which is their spiritual intelligence or conscience. When I was thinking about this model, I split it left and right. On the right-hand side, body and mind. On the left-hand side, heart and spirit. Now, it's really important to think about the evolution of the economy as we go through this, just to put it into context, really. We started with the agricultural revolution. One big landowner, lots of employees, turn up and dig a hole. We only needed their body. Very similarly, in the industrial revolution, for most people, we only needed their body. Markets weren't fragmented. There was a choice of very few things. If you wanted a car, it was a black Model T Ford. So no choice in the marketplace. If you wanted a car, there was a choice of one, relatively. So we only needed people's bodies to turn up and effectively press that button however many times today. Next evolution in the economy was the technological age. Now clearly that needs more thought. So we need people to turn up and think about it, body and mind. And now the economy's moved on again. Think about any market, it's really fragmented. People don't really understand what we do. We're the experts in what we do, but they're not. So how do they make decisions about what we do? Well, they make decisions on what we do because of how we do it. That's the left-hand side in terms of how people turn up. So let's have a think about this for a moment. If we're now in the experience age, it's really important to have whole person engagement. So we start on the left-hand side with leadership. Now, who can be a leader in your business? Well, the answer is, of course, everyone, because a leader gets followers. Now, sometimes somebody leads and attracts followers to cause behaviours that you don't really want in your business. We could call that accidental culture. But leadership is very much about the how we do what we do. It's about our promise or our recipe, if you like, what we take to the marketplace in terms of the way we behave. That's the thing that really causes us to be differentiated from our competitors, the recipe of how we do what we do. So that's our point of difference. The third really important part about this is when people come with you because they're aligned to your values, that engenders trust. On the right-hand side, we have management. Management is all about process. In other words, what we do. That's what allows us to create competitive advantage. By getting great processes, we can do things better, more efficiently, more effectively than our competitors. And the third element to this is confidence. Processes engender confidence. Now, there's a couple of really important points to differentiate here. First of all, leadership, that's clear. Leadership is behavioural and everybody can be a leader. Management. When I ask people what the managers do, most people say manage people. Now, there are certain implications to that statement. You see, if we manage people, we're not thinking from a process perspective. Now, because most people are nice people, what they do is avoid difficult conversations. Now, if you take this back to our very first session, what are systems and processes there to do? First of all, to create a defined performance outcome. Secondly, to show a way of doing things. Thirdly, to make something objective so that we can measure it. And fourthly, to depersonalize things. In other words, when we catch somebody's behavior in a moment, like below the line, We reference them to the system of above and below the line and say, your behaviour is not meeting my performance standard in this moment. So managers actually manage processes, not people. We lead people and manage processes. So what? Well, if we manage processes, first of all, a manager is there then to make sure that the processes are fit for purpose, that the people are trained in the processes. Remember the first thing I said to you, the systems run the business, the people run the systems. So the first place to look is always to the system or process, the second place to the training, the third place to the person. So managers manage processes. They make sure they're fit for purpose. They make sure everybody's trained in them. They make sure it's objectively measured. And they make sure they're correctly resourced. Now, management then very clear about process and leadership about people. The next words that get bandied around, I think mistakenly, are trust and confidence. You see, if I say to you, I don't trust you, and then I say to you, I don't have confidence in you, they feel very different, don't they? Trust is more of a foundational word. So I've put that on the left-hand side. Trust is about engagement and alignment. It's about alignment with your values. If you don't trust somebody, it's normally because they're not aligned with your values. Conversely, confidence, I don't have confidence in you, means that you probably don't undertake my process as I'd like it done. So we should talk about confidence when it comes to processes, because processes build confidence. So here's the game that we're playing. Really, really important to understand that actually in today's economy, we need to engage all four parts of the person, and we need to set up the environment for management and the environment for leadership, because both those things will allow us to do what we do in our way of doing it, how, to deliver something that our clients and customers can evaluate and say, well, I like how they do what they do, then make a better judgment. If I give you an example of this, I always buy Mac products, Apple products. So about 7 years ago, I went into the Apple store and I wanted a new MacBook Pro. Now the point is with this, my decision-making process, it's not a great decision-making process, but it's my decision-making process. When I want to buy a computer, if I buy the most expensive one, it does everything I need it to do. I told you it wasn't a great decision-making process. So about 7 years ago, I went into the Apple store and I said, I'd like a new MacBook Pro, please. Can I have that one? And the guy said, okay, that's fine, but can I just ask what you need it for? So I told him, and he said, look, you don't need that one, you need this one. And I walked out with a computer that was £500 cheaper than the one I'd gone in for. Now think about that for a moment. You see, you can buy that same computer in the Apple store, you can buy it in Currys, you can buy it online. If I went into Currys or bought it online, I'd have bought the computer that I went in for, and they'd have sold it to me. Now, when I went into the Apple store, he asked me questions, and I walked out £500 better off than I thought I was going to be with a computer that was fit for purpose. It's the same computer, no matter where I buy it from. I'm not making the judgment on what the computer is, I'm making the judgment on how it was sold to me. Now, if you think about it, if I'd have walked into the Apple store and walked out with the one I went in for, well, no stories would have been available here, because I went into the Apple store and bought a MacBook Pro 7 years ago isn't a great story. But with the story I've told you, how many times do you think I've told you it? And how many times do you think I've told that story? Loads. Now, if I've told that story loads of times, what's that going to do? What's that going to influence in people's perception of the Apple store? So they've done something differently in their how, and their what is the same. It's the same computer. This is our opportunity to differentiate ourselves. So in the next sessions, we're going to look at how we do that and then go really deep into some of those principles so that we can create that better environment, so that we've got a coherent message of how we do what we do. And then our clients and customers will become educated in how we do what we do and can make better decisions about why they deal with us. So if we need to engage that whole person, let's have a look at how we do this. We call this the 9 ways of systemizing the business. So the first thing we need to have is a vision. Let's take this out of the context of business for a moment and put it into a sporting context. I'm going to use rugby as an example because I understand that game. Well, I've already talked to you about why in my identity iceberg session. You could put it into the context of football or any team sport. The analogy will work. Let's think about the England rugby team then. What's their vision? To be the best team in the world. Now, that's not a great vision for a business, but it's a pretty good vision for a sports team because essentially they have to reprove it every 4 years. So vision to be the best team in the world. Mission, we'll go into detail about that, what that is as we go through these sessions, but essentially that supports the vision. And culture. So a set of values which are then referenced by behaviours to say this is the way it's okay to behave, this is the way it's not okay to behave. Now, if you think about it, what that creates is alignment. So we've got a bunch of people who are really enthusiastic about being the best team in the world. They know how to behave, but they're useless. Excited and useless. Why? Because they're standing on the pitch and they don't know what to do. What might that mean then? They're running around duplicating effort. Balls are getting dropped. Nobody really knows what their position is. So we've created a really nice leadership environment. Everybody knows where they want to go. Everybody knows how to behave. Everybody can behave that way, so they're all leaders. But on the right-hand side, we need to manage that process. So the first thing we need is a team sheet, an organisational chart. What does that do? It defines the roles and positions on the field so that the positions are clear. Once we've defined that team sheet, we need what we call positional contracts. Now I'm going to link positional contracts back to that orange box that we talked about earlier. Because you see, the positional contract should say, this is what a great day on the pitch looks like. These are your areas of focus. These are your orange boxes. Now, there might be exceptions when you're not able to be in that orange box, but 80-20 rule says that 80% of the time, you should be focused on doing the activities in your orange box. So for example, if we take the fullback in a rugby game, they'd be at the back of the field and they'd be defending the line. So very much about defending the line and getting the ball back into play so the rest of the team can actually go and score some tries. So they've got a very clear great day on the pitch, as have all the other positions. Once we have defined what a great day looks like, we can also assign some key performance indicators to them. So for the fullback, some examples of key performance indicators would be percentage of times that they catch the ball, because quite often the other team is kicking the ball down deep into their half, and they're going to be able to need to catch that ball 100% of the time. Then they need to get the ball back into play. So there's about kicking accuracy and distance. That would be one of their KPIs as well. So there's a couple of examples of key performance indicators that would be absolutely relevant to the fullback. As a result of that, who now has ownership of those KPIs? Well, the fullback, because he understands his part in the game, he understands where he needs to improve, and he's got some measures to prove it. So he's now got ownership. Next, we have the how-to manuals, in other words, the processes and systems around the game of rugby. This is how we play the game. If you play it this way, it's within the rules. If you don't do that, the rules are broken, the referee blows up. Maybe you even get a penalty or get sent off. The next part is management systems. If we have management systems wrapped around that game, such as individual dashboards to show how people are progressing, scoreboards for the actual game itself, league tables, and then overall championship results, we've now got very, very clear measures around each stage of the progress towards that vision. We put coaching sessions and management sessions around that to hold people accountable to their performance. And all those things are linked together with goals. See, the reason I put goals in the middle is because, well, the vision is a goal, but so is the fullback catching the ball 100% of the time. So massive goals become smaller goals, become micro goals, become behaviours. So we have to create that 9 ways environment for every game. Now, if you think about the game of rugby, if you take any one of those 9 things away, does the game make as much sense anymore? And the answer is, of course, no. So in the game of business, if you take away any one of those nine things, does the business make as much sense? And the answer has to be, of course, no. So what I'd like you to do is evaluate your business right now. We're going to build on those 9 ways in the subsequent sessions. But what have you got? What haven't you got? And if you look to what's not working as you'd like it to in your business, the first place to look is, of course, to the process or system. Now, if you have managers in your business and you don't have any processes or systems, then actually we've not created the environment for them to manage. So how can they be effective? So everything will reference back to that 9 ways as we go through and build on this. Go and evaluate your business and find out where your biggest opportunities are.